The highly delusional Seattle City Council moves to ban algorithmic rent-setting software that they believe has caused rents in the city of Seattle to skyrocket. Yeah, let's blame the software. Let's blame the algorithm, not their own policies, which have constricted the supply of housing. And when you have a strong economic city like Seattle, where a lot of people want to move to and you don't have enough housing, guess what happens? Your rents go through the roof. The one thing that this banning of the algorithmic rent setting guarantees is that rents will continue to go up because nobody wants to invest in a community that just absolutely takes a crap on ownership and developers and builders in the form of this kind of absolute silliness. Let's get into it. Here we go.
Another path to help renters is coming to Seattle.
In the mid-2000s, 2006, I was living in a two-bedroom apartment for $800 on Crown Hill.
John Gleason still loves the city, but living on Whidbey Island is a different walk of life.
I was paying like $400. Friend was paying $400. That seems unthinkable now.
In an effort to bring down...
Because it is. Times change. Seattle became a business powerhouse. We constricted the supply of housing. You've got a city that's located in between water and mountains. Guess what? You don't have enough supply. Rents are going to go through the roof. Rents are going to continue going through the roof. But then there's this kind of thing from Seattle City Council.
Rent. Seattle City Council members took a step toward evicting algorithm rent fixing in the city. Experts predict the ordinance will help lower the monthly cost.
Okay, experts predict that banning of software will help lower the monthly cost that renters. No. Absolutely not. That is not going to happen. In fact, the opposite is going to happen because this is what happens when you have misguided individuals. Only one individual is a landlord on the Seattle City Council, and they didn't vote on this because they said, "Hey, I'm a landlord. I'm out on this one." You've got a bunch of misguided people that don't understand absolute basic real estate principles like supply and demand. And if you don't have enough supply and you have huge demand, something like this, they banned the algorithmic software. Oh, good Lord, my rent's going to go down. They're holding out hope for something that they can blame. Let's blame the algorithmic rent prediction software. It's AI. You think AI is going away? It's not. You've got more and more coming, but this is something that they can blame because they want to play the blame game. They want to play the victim. Why are rents so high? Well, let's blame the software company, a software company that just takes data and says, well, this is what we predict rent in your building should be. And that doesn't create high rents. That's just a measure. Every other industry in business does the exact same thing. But because you've got policy in a city like Seattle where rents are going through the roof and they can't take credit for it because they don't want to, because then they'd have to look at their own policy and go, yep, we restricted supply there. Yep, we restricted supply. Yep, we restricted supply there. They'd have to blame themselves and they'd have to go through and, take off all those layers. And they're not doing that. Instead, they're blaming outside players, which is a software company out of Texas.
It will be a significant change, and so I think it is important that SDCI engage in education with landlords.
The city ordinance looks to ban landlords from using services that combine public and private rental market data with algorithms to set prices. It would also ban companies from offering their services in Seattle and charge penalties.
Ultimately, it's about education, and we endeavor to educate.
Educate me there, sport. Rob, educate me. How is this going to increase supply of rental housing? Because that's the only thing that's going to help you with your rent situation. And that's just going to stabilize things as far as your prices continuing to go up. It's not going to bring them down. It's not going to drop them. So educate me there, big guy. Nah, you can't, because you're just talking a bunch of nonsense that you hear all your other Democratic buddies talking. oh, they need to educate, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. We don't really want to go after the land. This is a mandated try-for at blaming why rents are so high in Democratic-run cities. Where's everybody moving to? Are they moving to other Democrat-run cities? No, they're going to Republic cities that have big supplies of land and haven't constricted the supply. Period. But let's go ahead and let Rob finish out.
How folks become in compliance rather than being punitive.
It all started after the Washington Attorney General's office alleged the company
There you go.
RealPage and its software are central to a conspiracy, as well as unfair competition by 9 landlords, resulting
Not years and years and years of Democrat policy constricting the supply of housing. Not years and years and years of tree hugging. Not years and years and years of environmental restrictions, on land use restrictions, on just, statewide growth management constrictions. Not that. A new company out of Texas is to blame for Seattle's high rents and other cities' high rents as well.
in rapidly rising rent prices for tenants, which RealPage opposes.
Every step of their pricing method favors setting rents at the very top of the market. Artificially.
These are for-profit companies. What don't you understand about that? These are for-profit companies. Of course they're going to do that. It's called capitalism. Oh, you don't like that. You want socialism or you want communism, right? I mean, this is our Attorney General literally telling us, oh, it's the top of the market. Yes, correct. That's what companies do that offer input to landlords wanting to know where to price their units.
Pushing that ceiling higher. It's price fixing. It's illegal. And it hurts Washingtonians.
A Queen Anne resident told the Attorney General's office he thought a 50% increase in rent was a mistake and still re-signed.
To this day, I have no idea how I did it for so long. And the most painful and revolting part about all of it is that all the money that I spent unnecessarily is now in the pockets of those who need it the least.
I'm a victim. I had to do it. I chose to do it, but I'm the victim. It's terrible. 50%. So I think, let's go with Louis Vuitton. I think Louis Vuitton is wildly overpriced. You know what happens when I think something is wildly overpriced? I think Ferraris are wildly overpriced. I think Lamborghinis are wildly overpriced. You know what I do when I think something is overpriced? I don't buy it. You have the option of moving. So move. If you think it's not worth it, move. But there's this victim mentality of they did it. They made me do it. I know rent is different than an overpriced luxury handbag, but at some point in time, you got to take some personal responsibility and go, maybe I'm priced out of living in Seattle. And that's just a reality. That's the hardcore reality that so many folks don't want to have that conversation. Hey, you can't afford to live here. You got to go. You got to move somewhere. That's personal responsibility. What does my budget look like? Where can I afford to live? What can I do to make my life better based on the physical circumstances I have out in front of me? I make XYZ, rent is here, cost of ownership is here. What am I going to do? Instead of, let's blame the rent algorithm company. And how much did this guy right here, how much did this goon get paid for making these statements that he's basically an idiot that just did whatever his landlord told him to do, and he can't believe it, and money's in the hands of people that, No, they took the risk, they went out, they bought the property, you leased it, and then you re-upped your lease when it went up 50%, probably because you had below market rate before that. Nothing to do with algorithmic software, but you got all these people here going, Just, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
The attorney's office would be responsible for enforcement, and in order to bring landlords into compliance, an amendment asks city inspectors to start reaching out to landlords. Alex McClune, King 5 News.
All right, so how's that working out throughout the rest of the United States? Let's go down to Berkeley. Let's go to Berkeley. Who doesn't want to go to Berkeley? Facing costly lawsuit, Berkeley likely to pause its ban on rent-setting algorithms. How come? Why is that? Berkeley is likely to postpone its recent ban on rent-setting algorithms, this software company, several months after a leading property management software company sued the city in federal court. City Council will decide Tuesday evening whether to push back the ban, originally intended to go in effect this spring, in an effort to avoid a costly legal battle with RealPage. I hope RealPage sues Seattle as well. That would just be perfect, because it's got nothing to do with why rents are so expensive. Think it through, people. Those of you in Seattle are like, I knew there's a reason my rent's so high. Yeah, it's because you live in a city with unbelievable demand, and we haven't built enough supply because we haven't built enough supply. And this kind of thing right here, all this does is this kind of banning of something third party that's a part of many, many, many businesses, not just real estate, not just rents, but having AI help you with pricing where your product should be. That's just basic business. But what this does is this ban on real property on RealPage, it sends the message that Seattle's not a real estate development friendly city. And it's not. We've proven time and time and time again. So what's going to happen as a result of this ban? Rents are going to go up. Nobody's going to want to build here. Very few people are going to want to build here. And if they do build here, show me the money. Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Because if they're not going to, if they're not going to have the endorsement and encouragement of local officials like you would in Texas or Florida or any other Republican city, that here's a big developers coming to town. If you don't have that kind of incentive, instead, if you have this pushback, which is, hey, we don't want you here because we think you're doing something illegal, something that just about every other damn business in business. And if they aren't doing it, they should be doing it, which is employing AI to figure out where their, pricing structure model sits. It's mental. It's literally mentally challenged because they've come up with this idea that they're to blame, victims. It's victimhood. That's what Democrats are all about, being a victim, not taking, like the guy we saw, who signed the lease even though it was 50% more. Well, you dumbass, you didn't have to. You could have moved out. Instead, you're sitting here, telling us a sob story. And I'm like, who's feeling sorry for this guy? He signed a lease. Nobody just put a gun to your head and did that. Rents went up, so you're paying. Texas-based company that, in order to avoid a costly legal battle with RealPage, they're putting this on hold. Anticipated deferral to March 2026 follows a warning from City Attorney Farima Brown that the pending litigation poses significant costs for the city, which already faces a $27 million budget deficit. RealPage has tentatively agreed to suspend its lawsuit if the city repeals the ban or delays enforcement of it, she said. Of all the things that Seattle has going on, they're going to go after a software company that helps landlords price their units. That's what you're doing. That is where the resources are going. Are you mentally challenged? Literally, you think you think slowing down a software company is going to somehow magically create more supply or magically make rents go down? What in the dynamics of the marketplace would actually create that to happen when you ban a software company? Explain that to me. Take the logic of the leap of logic from, well, we're banning it, so this will help the tenant. Walk me through that. Tell me exactly what that looks like. Otherwise, you've just got a PR moment and you've got probably a lawsuit coming down the pike. That's all you got. You got nothing. Postponement action is intended to give the council time to facilitate a resolution of the RealPage litigation. Yada, yada. Council will likely be debating a range of possible next stops. Ordinance with the council overwhelmingly approved in March would bar landlords. So this is not just a Seattle thing. This is a big blue liberal city thing because they need somebody else to blame for their own internal policies, which have created situations. And geographically, Berkeley, same deal. You got the ocean, you got other boundaries, you got, other stuff going on that create a scenario where you've got a lack of supply of housing and you got a ton of people that want to live there. More demand than supply. You got one way that prices are going to go up. And that's, it's inevitable that rental prices in Seattle continue their steady climb up. These recommendations allow landlords to manipulate the market. How? Because here's the thing. If they price their properties too high, tenants won't rent them. There's nothing that says, well, since this unit is way overpriced, say it's a $3,500 on the market rental and it's worth $2,500. You know what's going to happen? That thing's probably going to sit. And if it doesn't, if somebody actually rents it, then you've got a reasonable argument for willing buyer, willing tenant, willing landlord. That's the market rate. So nobody's holding a gun to the tenants' heads saying, you got to rent this thing. So it allows landlords to manipulate the market. So if you're telling me that a grocery store uses artificial intelligence software to predict the cost of a head of lettuce, that is manipulating the market, is that the same drill? Is that the same drill? Because I don't see a lot of difference there. I really don't. And the market itself, again, you put a house on the market for $4,000 that's worth $2,000, what's going to happen? It's going to sit. Market works that out. Not a bunch of liberals sitting on the Seattle City Council that don't really know much about real estate economics. So there's that. And the practice amounts to illegal price fixing. See, they all go down this, well, it's illegal price fixing. Remember when Kamala Harris, it's price fixing. Oh, they're price fixing at the top. Remember when Joe Biden went to it's price fixing. And we've got podcaster Newsom. It's price gouging by the big oil companies. Didn't want to take responsibility for California's own internal policy that creates a situation where you constrict that supply of gasoline. You want to blame somebody else. Oh, it's price fixing. It's price gouging. The use of algorithmic devices in setting rents and occupancy levels contributes to double-digit rent increases. No, the lack of housing contributes to double-digit rent increases. The demand for rental housing, because nobody can afford a house because prices have gone up so much on the buy side. Those are real things. They're happening in real time. Nothing short of massive amounts of supply coming on the market and interest rates coming down are really going to change that much. We got increased rates of eviction and artificial housing scarcity. Well, it's not artificial. That's real housing scarcity, and it's because of policy. So you want to look through some of that policy and determine where you went sideways? Well, you can do that all day long, but unless you're going to change something of it, you're going to have much of the same. Nearly 60% of Berkeley's residents are renters, over half of whom are considered lower income and pay a significant portion of their income on rent. All right, so you've described most big blue liberal cities. You've described that. So now what are you going to do? You're going to blame an algorithmic rent determination software. Okay, I got it. I see where we're going with that. What? Use of these algorithmic devices is widespread in markets throughout the country and has helped fuel the national housing affordability crisis. No, that's not true. And so many other factors have done that. But, it's interesting that no Republican cities are suing, right? Why aren't they doing that? Because they know that this has nothing to do with reality. This isn't what's driving housing costs up. It's lack of supply, period. Berkeley is the first city to be sued by RealPage, okay? Then you got San Francisco, you got Philadelphia, Minneapolis, and San Diego. What is the common theme there? I'm trying to work it out. Help me out. Leadership? Type of leadership? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Not happening in Texas, not happening in Florida. How about that is the answer, right? RealPage did not respond to the questions in its lawsuit. Company contends that Berkeley's ban is based on misinformation and illegally prevents the company from communicating data-driven pricing recommendations to its clients. Yeah. Since when is that an illegal thing? Consulting, is that illegal? Should we make all consulting illegal? If anybody consults and they tell you to, hey, in order for you to make a profit, here's where we need to see your product at. Not down here, lower, which would help out the consumer. And in, other environments like communism or socialism, that would be better. But in a free market, more is better. So, because you want to maximize those profits. So, that's the general idea here, right? It's not to give away housing to everybody. That's just not a thing. If you want to do that, then you need to have just massive amounts of subsidized housing, which isn't a thing because it's so damn expensive in these big blue liberal cities that they can't build it fast enough for all of the drug-affected, whacked out nut jobs who are already lining the streets in their tents. RealPage's software is simply intended to optimize revenue, not to maximize rents. Yeah, but some would say, well, optimizing revenue, that's free market code word for screwing the tenant. And from that standpoint, and that's why you've got San Fran, you've got Minneapolis, you've got Seattle, you got Philly, you got San Diego that are all worked up about high rents because they're high. Minneapolis, not as much. Philly, not as much. San Francisco, absolutely. San Diego, absolutely. More than 30 class action lawsuits have been filed in recent years against RealPage and landlords who use the software. Okay, all right. 6 major real estate firms named in lawsuits over the software own over 1,300 apartments in Berkeley. Okay, so they do. All right. There's always somebody else to rent from. And that's the other argument. Well, they're price fixing. Okay. Well, really? You know what I mean? How many people live in Berkeley? 1,300 apartments, couple hundred a pop. So you got 2,600 apartment units. How many hundreds of thousands of people live in Berkeley? Yeah. Last year, the Biden administration's Justice Department, joined by California and 7 other states, sued the company. It's what it is. This is a witch hunt. You need to blame somebody else for just natural circumstances going on in a marketplace where you've got an imbalance of supply and demand. Suit is moving forward under the Trump administration by feeding sensitive data into a sophisticated algorithm powered by artificial intelligence. Well, that's every company doing that now. That's every company. You just described business. Oh, we did? Huh. Let's sue them anyway. Yeah, let's just shut them down. We're going to sue them. We're going to ban them. RealPage has found a modern way to violate a century-old law through systematic coordination of rental housing prices, undermining competition and fairness for consumers in the process. All right. Well, we'll see how it works out. We'll see if Seattle's rents take a big, huge dive after this, devastating software is eliminated from the marketplace. We'll see if rents really go down. What would maybe you don't live in Seattle. I don't live in Seattle, but I live pretty close, a few miles away. What do you think is going to happen? Let me know in the comments. Do you think rents are just going to drop precipitously because we got rid of an outside company that acts as a consultant based on actual data from the marketplace that uses AI? Do you think rents are going to go down because of that? Does that argument make any sense at all? No, it doesn't. But there are so few people who understand real estate fundamentals in these big blue liberal cities, specifically the tenants, that everybody just goes, they're responsible for my high rent. And it's not. It's lack of supply. You got too many people chasing the same thing. And when that happens, prices go up. And now that you've got even fewer developers looking at Seattle as a viable option. I think developers are taking a look at Washington State. We just had rent cap, looking at Washington State and going, no, I don't think that's for us. The future for us isn't here. It's kind of like the oil refining business. It's not in California. Chevron just took their headquarters and said, we've been here 140 something years, 145, 147 years. And it's been a great run for us, refining oil in California and having our headquarters here. But we need to move on. We're going to take our business to Houston, Texas. And I think that's what a lot of developers are going to do, specifically developers who develop apartment complexes. Why would you want to build in Seattle? Why would you want to build in Washington State, where they openly hate companies that work on principles of capitalism? Why would you want to come here? You wouldn't. And that's what's going on. And that's why your supply isn't going to get opened up. And that's why your rents are continue to go through the roof. And you'll need to blame somebody else. You'll need to sue somebody else in a couple of years. It's them. And then we'll do the podcast of, remember when they blamed high rents on analytical software? And we'll all just go, oh, that was so dumb. That was so silly. And we'll be on to something else. Because you got to blame somebody other than the policies in place, because then the policies in place reflect on the political leadership. And what has that been in the state of Washington? It ain't been red, tell you that. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell, the like button if you like this video. If you're listening to me at this point in time in the video, you either really hate me or you like the video. Hit that like button. Thanks again. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.